Good evening, folks. I've been sitting here for the last 10 minutes talking to myself. Oh dear, this is all my fault. Please accept my apologies. I came on as usual. I started up as usual, only to find that I had set up the live stream wrongly. So I had to stop, go back, start up a new one, which is the one I'm on now, and somehow I forgot to turn the thing live. So who was the first to appear? It was Treble M that first appeared, asking, "Is anybody there?" And then she's saying, "No sound." Budgie then appeared. Treble M said, the screen said, "Waiting for me." Treble M said, "No idea why things have gone wrong." Anglo then appears and says, "It's not like John to be late." And it isn't. But it is my fault for making that first error. So I'm sorry about all of that. That's exactly what I've been doing, Anglo. I have been talking to my bloody self for the last 10 minutes. And I'm sitting here apologising and explaining what I've just said a minute ago. And all the time I'm talking to the screen. Jeez. But Scottish football is on. So I'm all right. That's it. I've been talking to myself. Not the first time, let me tell you. Hiya, Budgie. Oh, Jojo Gizmo. Good evening. Well, what I've been talking about to myself is I was explaining what had gone wrong as I thought I was speaking to you good people. And that's what happened. I'd set up the live stream last week at the weekend, and somehow I made an error in doing that. So when it started up tonight, it wouldn't start properly. So I was left with having to go back, reconfigure a new live stream, and start all over again. But I wasn't started. I hadn't pressed the button for going live. So so I was sitting here for 10 minutes talking to myself, explaining to myself, as it turned out, uh, what a plonker I had been. Good evening, Jojo. I tell you. But there is Galloway's got a new show started up this evening. It's on right now. He's quite rightly, making the best use of his added income and extra bit of promotion that his election has given him. So he's taking advantage of that, of course, and quite rightly, I'd do the same if I were in his position. Butchie, can hear you fine now, John, says Butchie. Well, that's because I pressed the right button. Stupid me. But I know the football's on, so some of the guys might be watching football. Some might be watching Galloway. I've no idea. That's it. George Holloway. But as I said about all of this, he's he's definitely pumped some confidence into uh, other people about standing in the elections. In fact, he mentioned something in one of his shows that I had not considered or thought about, and that was doing a fundraiser for money to stand in the election. But I've got to be honest with you all. Although I'm the leader of the People's Party, I've got no ambitions to go to Westminster. Really, I don't. I don't even know if now the way my health is, I don't even know if I've got the energy that it would take to do that. If assuming I won the election, assuming I got a place in Parliament, would I have the energy levels? Because that's a pretty rigorous thing. And I know he's a bit younger than me, but not much, a couple of years. But he doesn't have. Good evening, Eke. He doesn't happen to have uh, my cancer problem. Grace be with you, and peace from God the Father and from our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you very much, Eke. Thank you. Appreciate that blessing. But it did give me pause for thought because I had never considered that using a fundraiser to get the money for election. I'm not even sure about Edinburgh. I, you see, the trouble with me is I've never really been sure, and I'm talking about me, okay? Not anybody else, not any member of the party. But I've never been sure about me being in Edinburgh as an elected member. I've never been sure of that. I don't. My nature, my natural state of being isn't suited to the procedure of Edinburgh or Westminster. My nature just isn't suited to that. All that protocol, all that pomp and circumstance. So I don't know Well, thanks very much, Trevor. A counsellor would suit you. I would be all right, and I'm saying it because I know myself well enough. I would be all right in Edinburgh if I was going to be First Minister, because I've got certain ideas and plans in my mind that I would bring in straight away, and I'd get rid of all of that because it's just nonsense. All this flapping of jaws back and forth, it's just nonsense. I just do away with it all. That's my nature. One thing that I learned with this friendship that I used to have with a communist, die-hard communist, second generation communist, is when any time we would discuss anything, I remember uh, the subject came up one night in the house here about women getting raped, which of course any sane person is totally against. So the subject came up and I started giving out my thoughts. And what demonstrated to me about how far away I was from his position is his first reaction to anything. Swear to God, this is his first reaction to anything. We need to form a committee. That was his response to it. We need to get a committee together to discuss all this. And of course, that's just totally and absolutely against my way of thinking. If it's such a saying, Eki. You'd never get your feathers ruffled because feathers are just unnecessary accessories. Very good. I like it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anglo. But this was the way he always tackled any contemporary political social problem. If we were discussing it, I would say such and such. He opened the whole gambit of conversation with saying, and I swear to God, this was true. This is what he said. Uh, he thought men should be under curfew from, like, say, 6 o'clock at night. Men shouldn't be allowed out. And of course, I was horrified by that. But it was a small doorway into how these types of people think. Oh, I heard that many a time, Eki. What a nonsense. So this is what the kind of rubbish that you would get. Oh, there's Julia. Good evening, Julia. This idea that committees, this is where you hammer out problems and you solve problems. It is with committees. And I've never heard such rubbish in all my life. I think anyone who's ever spoken to anybody who's a communist or anywhere near communism will have heard this. It's never really, true communism has never really been tried. Yeah, we see all the other forms of stuff that you say isn't real communism. Well, it was all forced on other people. It was never voted on. It was all taken by blood and guns. All of it, wherever it has appeared and wherever it has taken power, it was done through violence. Very good, Eki. So I'm not a committee type person. I learned that. I learned it when I was at college studying photography. I became quite quickly. I became president of the Students' Union, and that automatically put me onto various committees. I'll check out the movie tonight over a shot and a pint. I'll probably need it. Yeah, well, you have a good time, and I hope you. Well, I'm not going to ask about the movie because we'll hear what your thoughts are on Friday. Exactly, Anglo. 200 million dead. That's probably an underestimation. Probably underestimation. So, see you later then, Eki. Thanks for dropping in. Thanks for your usual dry wit, which I always enjoy. Uh, so that's why I'm not sure about elections. I told you that the last time I stood, and that was my first time, was to make sure that the people in the area here um, got wind of a new political party. I didn't think I would have much of a chance. I did better than I thought. I didn't come in last. But there's a terrible problem now in Scotland. It probably has some bearing down in England as well. But in Scotland here, where large percentage of people are still living in tenement houses, you can't get into them because they're all locked up. Which means you can't put leaflets through the letterbox because you can't get into the close. Which is a terrible handicap. And you could spend long enough hanging about at the close mouth, waiting on somebody, coming into the close or coming out, so the door opens and you can get in. And that's one of the big snags now. And the only way I know around it is to have material privately posted. Now you can do a certain amount of posting, as I did, but the bulk of the people still live in tenements in a town centre anyway, and that gives you a real problem. And the party doesn't have the money to employ, for example, the local telegraph, the local paper, to put leaflets in their periodical, or for that matter, getting the post office to deliver for you because it costs a lot of money. And if you're one of the big parties, well, you can afford that. But there you go. So I've always had this uncertainty with it. Julia is saying life will reset once again. We are a species with amnesia. Yeah, well, I'd rather we didn't. I'd rather we just faced it and dealt with it. And it's not, in my mind, most of the nonsense that we have to put up with would easily be dealt with once we had political power. It's because we don't have political power. It becomes very difficult. In fact, it becomes impossible in most cases. Just like what's happening in Scotland with these new laws that are coming in. Well, we did. That's what we will say, Julia. But of course, the current crop of people who live here now will try and say otherwise. They will try and say that they had something to do with it. Trying to fix his background. Yeah. It's because the lighting has been changed. The overhead lighting has changed, making it difficult to get the balance right. Oh, do you like that, eh? I disappear into the sky like a god. Anyway, it wasn't the newcomers, Treble M, and well, you know it. It was us, our folk. We can't let anyone say otherwise. That then becomes a mockery to history, a mockery to my ancestors and yours. They're the people who built what we have. And a lot of people died building this stuff. Well, that's not, see, I don't accept that either, Julia. I say they can be. They can be replicated. Of course they can. The reason that they are not, the reason that something worth looking at is not put up, the reason for that is simply deliberate cost cutting. Ornamentation costs money. Exactly. You believe all this nonsense. And that's why a lot of buildings are put up without ornamentation, without any real thought. I mean, what does it take to be an architect now? We all know what a box looks like. How much brain power does it take to design a box? They weren't built in our current timeline. I'm not sure what you mean, Julia. Are you talking about an alternative past? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know about that. I'm not saying that the history I know or the history that we have is 100% accurate, because I'm sure it isn't. They were founded. Oh, Bass, good evening. Definitely not built by the original people, says he, because of diversity. Not quite sure of the point you're making, Julia, to be honest. I'm not. I know there are people who insist that large chunks of history have been fabricated. I've not looked into that very much and I'm not sure about it. I agree with Anglo. How glorious were our ancestors? Well, very. Left us beautiful cities, buildings, modern buildings are so ugly in comparison. And that's what I'm saying. It's because people who are in charge of such buildings refuse to have decent designs pleasing to the eye because ornamentation costs money and it takes up time. Well, Julia is saying everything we've been told is a lie, everything, to emphasize, underline, it's repeated, everything. I, I'm, I can't agree with that. It's too much of a sweeping statement, Julia. I think there are large chunks of history that are lies. I do agree there. But I don't think everything, which is it's an enormous statement to make. I don't see it being that enormous. Well, surely we must agree that certain things definitely did happen. To use the obvious uh, examples would be, I'm sure we would both agree the First World War took place, the Second World War took place, or what we call First and Second World War took place. I think we would also agree they took place probably on the dates that they say they took place and ended on the dates they say. We can then discuss the contents of each of these wars, and therein we will find differences. Well, that's a lot more philosophical, Julia. Everything that is important to us, where we came from, where where we're going, right? Where we're going. Now, that's a philosophical question. And that, I would certainly agree with you. I think we have been lied to as to where we come from. The older I've become, and certainly with the advent of YouTube and my personal access to YouTube, um, I've become more confident that I know even less than I did. and that your statement has become more and more true. Likewise, with where do we come from and where are we going? Well, I think I know where we're going. I think we are going into, let us call it, eternity. I think when we die, our spirit, or what we call our spirit, our spiritual self, continues onward. I believe in that as a reality. Oh, right. So you reckon somebody and someone on this earth today knows the answer to those questions, says Julia. Would you put a name to this person, Julia? Or is that more of a hunch, shall we say? If you, I don't think there's a human being alive knows the answer to that, where we came from. Not definitively. Evil. Well, I don't think we came from evil. I think we were corrupted by it very early on. I think we are the children of Adam. I think that's where we came from. Well, oh, good evening, William. Who said they were human? Well, I certainly didn't. I don't know if Adam was human or human like. I think that whole aspect of life is definitely, as you said, shrouded in mystery and stories and lies. I certainly would agree with all of that. But I would still stick to the idea that I really don't think that any human being has a definitive answer. That's my feeling on the matter, Julia. But I could be wrong. I'm no expert. I've not. Some people have spent their life studying these ancient texts, looking for those answers. I certainly haven't done that. I think it would take more than a lifetime to do that. So I would agree, there's a big question mark at the beginning. How we came to be. At this stage of my life, I'm content at the moment to accept the idea that that is a mystery, and I will not personally get to know the answer on this side of the gravestone. Might not even get the answer on the other side of the gravestone. I don't know. Hope so. Perhaps we are not meant to know the answer to that. Who knows? I don't. And I've got more philosophical about these things than I ever used to be. And I think that is an age thing. I've got to the point where I'm content to let it remain an unanswered question. Whereas when I was a young man, I wasn't. I wasn't able to allow anything to be unanswered. I had such a restless mind to know. And I went looking for answers, and I found a lot of answers that suited me. But it took a long time because, as I've said many times, up until the internet, the only way you could get information was reading books. Ah, good evening, Durst 4. That reminds me. So let me get back to where I was. um, Nice to see you here. I was talking about. Oh, and there is Mr. Johnson. Good evening, sir. I was talking about there was a new member of the party, and I was talking about it last week, and I suddenly stopped in the middle of talking about this new member. It suddenly occurred to me that uh, that I didn't know if this person wanted everyone in the chat to know he was a member of the party. So I stopped in the middle of it all. And I'm glad I did. Good evening, Doberman. I'll get to these questions in a minute. I need to finish this. Now, what happened was I was on the verge of contacting this person because I have this person's telephone number. I like that, Durst. I like that. So I was on the verge of contacting him because he suddenly disappeared from the chat. So this is the story. The person who has just joined recently, is Dominic. Now, I always knew that Dominic was going to join. He was taking time, doesn't earn a lot of money. I knew all of this, so I knew it was going to happen. So he joined. Now, perhaps Treble M and Julia will remember because he has said it a few times. Dominic earns his money as a self-employed window cleaner. So he is up ladders every day. So what happened? Well, did he not have a bad accident up the ladder? So he has badly injured his leg and is at the moment unable to work. So that's why you haven't seen Dominic in the chat for a while. But he listens and lurks. So he's lurking. That's as much as I know about it, and that's as much as he asked to allow to be known. He didn't want too much of his private affair, so to speak. Being public knowledge. So, Mr. Johnson, as normal, has questions for me. Do you listen to Mark Collette and David Duke? I once did, but no longer. Do you practice speeches? No. And I agree with Dust. The party is always right. Well, I'll get back to him because now that he contacted me by email, and that's how I know what's happened to him. Because I had got to that point, I was getting concerned, and I thought I need to get in touch with him. And because I have his telephone number, I could do it. And just as I was about to do that, an email came in, and he explained what had happened to him. Uh, do you like Mark Collette and David Duke? Asks Mr. Johnson. I had Mark Collette on as a guest on this channel years ago. I didn't have him on as a political figure. I had him on as an author to talk about his book. I bought his book, read it in an afternoon, the afternoon that he was of the day he was going to appear on the channel, because I wanted to know something about what his political position was outside what he says on streams. No, I haven't, Durst. Not yet, I haven't. So really what you're asking here, do I like Mark Collette and David Duke? I'm old enough, Mr. Johnson, to remember the documentary that the BBC did on him, or was it ITV? One of the two. I watched it as it was broadcast. No, I haven't. I haven't seen that either. And I remember all the bad publicity at the time. And I watched that show. You're quite right. It was Russell Grant that did it. And I couldn't believe my eyes and my ears. I just couldn't believe it. I kept asking myself over and over, where were all the older people in the party who should have been there to stop it, to step in and tell him not to do it, to shut his mouth, not to allow the access that he allowed, and to say the things that he said? He did enormous damage, not only to himself, but to our cause. And he'll always be a bad thing for our position politically, because all the powers that be need to do is drag up some of that footage and some of the things that was said. I know he was young. I understand he was young. That's why older people in the party should have stepped forward when it was all being discussed before it ever got started. And if he was hell bent on doing it, then he should have been heavily advised, and he should have had minders with him, older men and women, if there were any women in the party at the time, and I'm sure there were, um, to make sure that he was made quiet if he started to stray into areas that he shouldn't have been speaking about. As I say, he damaged himself for the rest of his life, and anyone around him, anybody who's associated with him, is going to be hit with the same damage. That's why I distance myself from him. Because anyone who associates himself with him will get that negative publicity. And anyone who's been on this channel any length of time, whether they're a member of the party or not, they know that when I'm working in the background for publicity, it's always good publicity, because that's the only type of publicity we can afford to get. At the moment, I'm working on repeating the chess tournament from last year. There's new difficulties has arisen from last year, but as I've people in here who know me know that I don't talk about these difficulties. You will hear about these things when the difficulties have been ironed out. That's the way I operate. And I'm going to look at Doberman's comment here, because I think he's off just catching my eye. It looks as though he's saying what I've said. "10 years up Chuffing Hills, I failed. Saved the race, one sticker at a time. Middle class fannies. PA is an arts and crafts movement." Well, I've questioned all of this stuff myself. I have. I get very upset when I hear any time police get involved, because usually it's young men, very young men, teenage men, who are getting picked up by the police. Not saying that they get charged with anything, but they're getting noticed. For me, this is not the way the party should go. And I'll tell you how the party shall go, or my party, how I run it. Yes, we should be involved in the community, whatever community we live in. That includes all the party members. They should all be involved in their community. Doing what? Well, doing positive things, like I try to come up with. One of those things that I came up with is the Inverclyde Open Chess Tournament, which is open to anyone who lives in Inverclyde. And that way, I get to put out our party message. They know who runs the tournament. I get all the local publicity through the paper. But I have a good relationship with my local paper and have done for years. So anytime the party is mentioned in Inverclyde, it's always positive publicity because I make sure that it's public and positive. We also leave a remembrance wreath at that time of the year, like I did this year again, or last year again, should I say. And we get positive pictures in the paper, we get our piece in the paper advertising us as a party who's doing this. Nobody else does it. That's the kind of thing we should be involved in. Somebody like me who knows nothing about football, has no real interest in it, that's a bit of a blind spot for me. But there's plenty of party members who are knowledgeable about such things, should be involved in it. But I can't force people to do anything. I can only try and lead by example and say, this is what I think we should do. This is how the local community will get to know that our party is part of the community, because they'll know who you are. They'll know how you try to help. And therefore, they'll be more inclined to listen to our point of view and more inclined to vote for us. Is it a National Socialist chess tournament? I didn't know he'd left Anglo. Mark Collette had over 100,000 subs on YouTube before. Oh, that's right. He's on one of the other platforms now, isn't he? And the reason I haven't moved is because people who don't even use the internet have heard of YouTube. So my thinking is, it's easy to find YouTube. Even if you don't know that much about it, it's easy to find. So this is the place to be, although it's a real pain in the butt at times. Fascists invited me. Invited too. So we get a lot of publicity, and that's how we get it. If other members in the party took up the banner and did something similar where they lived, then that would help too. And at the moment, I'm going to get, let me get hold of it here. I'm going to get this document. I'm going to get a price for having that turned into a booklet, because it has a lot of our important policies. Ah, there's Robert. Good evening, Robert. William, Sansom said that Stephen Hawking once tried to join, but you told him he couldn't start. Very good. And the other thing is, and this is where, again, it becomes difficult. And I'm repeating myself, but it's for people who may not have heard it. Sansom, ages ago, put forward dust. when we take when we take power with a beer hall putsch, I propose we annex Sudetenland. Excellent. I'm not going to complete that dust. I don't want some clever clogs editing the audio. Do you know any National Socialist bodybuilders online? I don't know any bodybuilders online. I've met a couple of National Socialists, but they're certainly not bodybuilders. Doomguard still on the go. You have to be very careful always on YouTube or any of these platforms, is my opinion. These are open platforms, and that means that anyone with a bit of technical know-how can download these live streams. And I am very, very well aware of what can be done with editing. And so I try to be careful about the language that I use. I believe they are. As far as I know, they are. I don't think they're the force that they once were, but I think they're still on the go. Could be wrong. This is the one drawback I feel, and always have felt this as a drawback to our kind of politics, is I can't be completely open when I'm speaking. And I have to watch very carefully what any of you good people say. And I don't like it, but that's the way it is. That's a very good question, Anglo. Are you going to censor yourself more? after the 1st of April because of Uncle Hamza? Short answer is no. Short answer is no. When you're born poor, this is a philosophy this is a philosophy I have had all my life. I'll repeat it again, and I don't mind repeating it. When you're born poor, as I am, I was, and so were most of you, if not all of you, were born poor. There are very few things that you have, and there's fewer things you have that have value. And one of the few things that I have and consider valuable is my word as a man. If I give my word, I mean it. If I say I will do something, I will do it. Because that's important to me. The other thing that I have that I consider to be absolutely crucial to every human being is their thoughts. My thoughts are my own. I share them ultimately with God. And sometimes, and very often, I share them with you good people. That's important to me as an individual, always has been. And I'm not giving it up. I'm just not. I won't antagonize the situation that we will find ourselves in. But I'm not going to hold back on anything. I never have done. Well, that's not true. I have. I guide my own speech on YouTube. Always have on YouTube. Because I know there are, modern phrase seems to be, there are bad actors. There's bad actors in chats, on streams. There's bad actors who run channels. I haven't heard that, Durst. Our cultural guardians are going after Robert Louis Stevenson now, trying to blacken his name for it. God almighty. How can you say? How can you say? Good evening, Rory. Sorry I'm late, John. I just got involved with Rev on the Rants stream discussing the Falkland Islands conflict. Oh, gosh. There's Steve. Good evening, Steve. Well, thanks for that, Steve. Good evening, John and Cha. I'm just popping in to send love. Missing you a lot. You're looking well, John, brother. Thank you. I know it's kind of deceptive, isn't it? Yeah. There's Paca in as well. Good evening, Paca. So that's my position, and it won't change. I have, over the course of time on this channel, uh, blocked people. I have ignored questions that have been posed to me because I realized the questions were uh, clickbait, really, trying to take me down a particular route and say things. Oh, give us a break. I mean, I just get so impatient with this stuff. I do. I just get impatient with it. Apparently, he acted with some agency in his dealing with the natives of Tahiti, whatever that means. I have no idea. The man's dead. Leave him alone. He had quite a miserable life despite his talent, despite his fame. If you know anything, if you know anything about the man's life, he had a bad time. Most of his life was spent in a bad state of health. Why the hell do you think he was out there? I just get angry with it all. Just get angry with it all. Most of the time, these people don't even know what they're talking about. Just make stuff up. I'm going to play a song. Hope it doesn't chase you away. The girls, Laura and Lorraine, didn't like me recording this song. I always liked this song. And this is closer to the original version than probably the one you know.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend. We've known each other since we were 9 or 10. Together we climbed hills and trees, learned of love and ABCs, skin to hearts and skin to knees. Goodbye to you, my youngest one. You gave me love and helped me find the sun. And every time when I was down, you would always come around and get my feet back on the ground. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the hills that we climbed were just seasons out of time.
Four of them are dead.
Goodbye, Mama, please pray for me. I was the black sheep of the family. You tried to teach me right from wrong. Too much wine and too much song. I don't know how I got along. Goodbye, my love, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that the spring is in the air, with the flowers everywhere. I wish that we could all be there. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the stars we could reach were just starfish on the beach. Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that spring is in the air, pretty girls are everywhere. Think of me and I'll be there. All our lives we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the wine and the song, like the seasons, have all gone. Goodbye.
There you go. Girls were very happy with me on that one. Yeah, you're obviously feeling a little bit better, Steve, which is good. Pleased to hear it. Or see it, should I say. So anyway, I think there are opportunities in the upcoming election. If any of our people wanted to stand, I think that would be a good thing. I don't think I should be one of them. I'd worry that I would get elected. I would. And I'm not fit for tramping up and down to Westminster, I can tell you that. But that would be the way for us to overcome the cash problem, is fundraiser. Because we definitely don't have the money. We've got the policies, we've got the people. The cash. And that's the other thing I was talking about as well there before I got moved on to different conversations. Is it sensible put forward the idea that because there's 3 individual groups at the moment, John Lawrence has got his group, I've got my group, and when PA split, that formed another group that doesn't have Mark Collett. But these 3 groups need to work together. And that was Sensum's point, to agree. Hey, Toffee. Was to agree on big policies, come together on, say, these big policies. Then we're going to do any kind of action. We do it together as one unit. I agreed instantly to the idea, but it came to nothing. Saxons built a place of worship in Staffordshire, my country. Norman wankers invaded and built Lichfield Cathedral. Whoops, come back. In 1085, all inhabitants of these isles have been subjugated since. Well, you're telling me something I don't know, Anglo, to be honest. Hi, Toffee, I hope you're doing all right. I hope your wee dogs are fine. I like this idea. Not that I'm the camping type, because I'm not, but I would certainly make an effort for something like that. And we need to do it. We need to get people together and say, right, we're going to do this because we need to meet up. I mean, it's important that we meet up. And I'm certainly all for it. Oh, obviously, Robert, I'm talking, well, I'm going to assume that our friend there is not any kind of bad actor. I'm not planning anything. Let me finish reading your comment. What are you planning to have for dinner on Easter Sunday? Two of my three children are coming down for roast lamb, parsnip puree, roast potatoes, and probably Brussels sprouts. Do you know something, Rory? I know you won't really believe me when I tell you this. There isn't a single thing on that plate that I would eat. And that's just the truth of the matter. Don't like lamb, never keen on. I can eat it. Don't get me wrong, I can eat it, but it's too fatty for me, so I don't bother with it, and haven't bothered with it for a lifetime. Once I had my own place, I stopped indulging in lamb. Uh, what else we got there? Parsnip, no. Roast potatoes, yeah, I could eat roast potatoes, but Brussels sprouts, oh, can't even can't even take the smell of Brussels sprouts. My late lady wife did, but not me. Oh, so no, not for me. Sorry. Green up tanning salon, then the boozer. Oh, Lorena like you. That's her idea. She likes not so much the boozer, but she certainly likes the tanning. Yeah, that's it. Give mines to Steve. Oh, now you're talking. Now you're talking. But yes, it would be great to get us together. And I was in the throes of planning it, not last year, obviously, when I was suddenly attacked by the cancer germ. But The year before that, I was. We we started seriously talking about how we could manage it, and I'd still like to see it before it becomes impractical for me. Anyway, that would be great. I would really like that. So, if anyone in the chat has got any ideas about where this could happen uh, and when this could happen, drop me an email and we'll take it from there. We'll try and get something organized between us. I mean, it could be up here. That I feel is it's a bit unfair on the English folk. We need to have a meet in the middle, so to speak. Oops. I bought a tandem cycle so Paka and I can make the journey. Steve, we'll be like a crap version of the goodies. The oldies. More like it. Uh, yeah, it'd be great. So say I'm all for trying to get us together over a weekend or something like that. But it will take time. But it could be done, It could be done. There's no reason to be done. That's for sure. Here's another wee song for you.
In a cave at the side of a crooked hill, a bearded future king sat still to watch a spider climb. 7 times he tried. And as he watched the spider climb, only to slip down again, he felt a kindred soul and shared its lofty goal. And as he watched that spider climb, only to slip down again, he wished the spider well. 2 hermits in a cell. and up the silken thread went he, slow and sure and carefully, until he reached his home, and balance was restored. The once a future king took heed, employed the lessons he would need to win his rightful throne. When balance is restored,
There you go, folks. Good evening, Ludwig. Hope you're doing all right there, my friend. Nice to see you. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it, Budgie? I like that myself. I mean, I like all of his stuff that I've played. That's why I play it. Not just because it's his, because I like it. Yeah, it's good stuff. That's why we support each other. And one of the things that we could easily do and I hope it would be nice if I live long enough to see it happen. But once some of this land is bought, we could easily have a summer solstice celebration with people playing their music, singing songs. I've got this imagined picture in my mind, a little platform of a stage where people go and sing songs, play guitars and flutes and what have you. Children are running about playing games and everyone's having a really nice time and no one's bothering us. That would be something. I'd love to see that on the side of the gravestone. I'd like to see it. I don't know if I will, but it would be nice. And it's one of the things that will become possible when that land is being bought. I could sing the Minder theme tune, says Ludwig. Steve, I'll accompany you on the armpit. Very good. Very good indeed. Crazy, I tell you. Crazy. Oh dear. This is formally the very first song that I ever wrote. So don't judge me too harshly. We used to sing this in the street. when we were a bit drunk. It was written for that reason, right? It's called Borstal Boy.
There was a young Borstal boy who sure was a sap. His girl did a murder and he took the rap. The jury said guilty and the judge he said fine. You're going to prison for a very long time. I counted the footsteps and I counted the stars. I counted 10 million of these prison bars. I just got a letter posted by mail. I just got a letter to Dartmouth jail. In prison there's nothing but time. Time to think about what might have been, what could have been, and what should have been. I just got a letter from old Green Oak Town to say that my sweetheart has just let me down. I just got this letter from old Green Oak Town to say that my best friend is running around.
There you go. No, I'm glad you like it, Robert. So yes, it's nice to see Steve putting in something of an appearance. There you go. There's a nice thing to be said. Steve Cray, you always make me feel better when you appear. That's a good thing. And that's the great thing about community. We can lift each other. Yeah, I've seen that. Yep. In fact, I'm sure I saw it in this, in the cinema originally, but I've watched it on YouTube. I have watched it indeed. Well, that's nice to hear, Steve. I know you've said that before to me privately. So we all have to give our thoughts out to poor old Dominic. But he is, when he can, he 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 lurks. Also, cannot wait for the movie review, says Bass. Well, Dominic joined the party, Steve, but like yourself, I always knew he would, right? I knew it would take a wee bit of a while for him to do this. And there's the reason Doberman's telling you. He fell off his ladder. If you remember, he's worked all his life as a window cleaner. So that's what happened. He fell off his ladder. He's pretty incapacitated. And if you're feeling a bit down in the dumps, of course, who wouldn't? Know how I felt last year. Best line from Scum, says Rory, is where's your tool? Donald, where's your tool? So that's a story on poor Dominic. He wrote me an email to let me know what was happening. He's very positive about our policy document, a land fit for children. As I told him, trying to get, I need to get a cost on turning the document into a little booklet so that we can spread it out so that more people can know what our policies are. And the great advantage of the policy document and those who are in the party already know it's written in very straightforward language. There's nothing complicated about it. So people should readily understand what's being explained to them. And I've always been very, very confident that the public, once they get to know what our policies are, will support us. I'm confident of that. I've always been confident of that because the party is made up of ordinary working class men and women. That's part of our strength. Part of our strength is we don't have an ideology. We have common sense where the policies come from. So we can neither, of course, it will be attempted to paint us as right wing, no doubt. But they'll find it very difficult. So I'm going to start looking into the costs of having a document turned into a booklet. Right, right. Yeah, right wing. And we need to get organised as far as working with the other two parties in the country. We have to do this. Somehow we've got to overcome these petty squabbles. And I've not actually had any squabbles with anyone. I mean, I've met Kenny Smith a few times. I've met John Lawrence a few times. I don't have a problem with either two of them. I don't know if they have a problem with me. They may do. I don't know. Don't think so. You can never tell. So I don't know why we can't manage to do this. But there are certain courses of action that I think are really a waste of time, folks. And I've said this before. There's no point in going out onto the streets to get your head bashed in by the police. I think you're speaking for most people here, Durst, when you say what you're saying. Right wing, left wing are absolute terms. This is a civilizational and spiritual struggle. I agree. Number one priority for me is demographics. I think the vast majority of our people would agree with you, Durst. I do sincerely believe that. Steve, let's hope that common sense prevails. The change is already here. Our group will learn its lesson at the end. We will be all that they have. We will be going. And we will be all that they have. We will be going. Again, I'm going to have to differ. I think once there's enough of us, and it won't be too long before we have enough of us, it will bring confidence to those who don't have it. It will give hope to those who are lost in despair. And that's why they're in despair, because they see no hope. Areas have been transformed, but they can be transformed again. That's the way of history. Look back and you'll see that. These things are not set forever. Rory, I was looking forward to squabble with John, but I can't think of any disagreement. Thanks for that. Just look at the map of Europe, for example. How many times has that map been changed? How many times, think even locally, come on, think about that. How many times has the border between England and Scotland been changed? I've lost count. I know you're not, Dorman. I know you're not. And as Steve says, we have the numbers at the moment. Oh, there's pressure drop. We haven't had pressure drops company for a while now. Good evening, pressure drop. Boring effing politics that'll get us all shot. Left wing, right wing, you can stuff the lot. White punks on hope by Cross. Cross. Yeah. Don't know that at all. Oh, you're right there. I'm referring to blocking groups, voting blocks rather. Oh, well, our group votes for all sorts of nonsense. Of course they do. The Jacobites. Har, har. Do you know when that started, Gavin? I would argue, I can remember when that started. That started back in 1965, just as I was getting married for the first time. They changed all the tax laws regarding the, the married man's allowance and the allowance for children and all that. That's how far back that goes. I hope you're okay, my friend. I know we don't always see eye to eye on everything, but I hope you're all right. And I hope you had a nice time over the Christmas and the New Year. And I'm just getting ready to shut up, show up. Yeah, I never forget. Scottish people don't seem to realise. That's good. A place to hear it. Pressure drop. Scottish people don't seem to realise it. That drunken man, that so-called Bonnie Prince, that drunken bum, ran out of Scotland with £25,000 of Scottish money, never to return. It's never mentioned in the romantic story or the song. Oh, hang on then, says Steve. Yeah, I'm just getting ready to close up, folks. Time is. I'm trying to keep myself, as you know, to the 2 hours because of the way my health is. So that's we've got tons of that stuff. Trouble is, too much of the Scottish history is just covered in blood. Too much treachery blood as well. Knox preached at a pulpit in the kirk in mid-Cola, mile fae my hoose, says Doberman. So, remember folks, I'll be back on Friday. At the moment, just to bring you up to date, I'm trying to get a cost together for the booklet. I think that'd be a useful thing for us to do politically, get this booklet together, and then I'll see how many arms I can bend uh, to go out and hand it out. So I'm doing that, and I'm trying at the moment to find a venue for the chess tournament. And just, well, I remember my auntie's, well, I'll put it simpler, my cousin who has a car, took myself and my auntie up to the cemetery to visit the family graves. My auntie makes these little bouquet things from heather and artificial flowers and what have you. Very nice. Well, what happened, Treble M, is they wouldn't listen to me. Those two young lads, two brothers who were running the place, they wouldn't listen to me, my advice. So it shut. And what was that going on about? Well, they had all these bloody rainbow flags up. Now, I got them all the publicity about the tournament, and it was more publicity than they'd ever had, even on their opening night. So what happened on the back of the publicity was women started coming into the place with children. At the end of the primary school day, they were bringing the wains in, getting a lemonade, a can of juice and a plate of chips and all this sort of stuff. So they were getting business. And I told them, I pleaded with them to take these bloody flags down. And they wouldn't listen to me. So what happened? As far as I know, nothing untoward happened to any of the children. However, the women saw the flags, didn't they? And eventually, they stopped coming because they couldn't risk it. Because most of these women were not only with their own children, but they were looking after friends and relatives, neighbours perhaps. So they'd come in with a gang of kids. So they're not going to take any chances with these flags up, because that's an open invitation. So they lost all that business. Well, that's right. That's the whole point. And I said to them, what would happen? I told them that we'd chase away customers. Men would come in on a Saturday with their children who they were estranged with. They bring them in there, buy them a wee plate of chips and a juice. There's a place to meet up away from pubs and away from burger joints. And things were looking up, except for these flags. Yeah, well, it's good from that point of view, Treble M. That's absolutely right. I had nothing to do with it. I never said a word. except to these two young men. But they didn't listen, and they wouldn't listen. All full of this woke nonsense. That's correct, Steve. And that was the outcome. The business that had started to go in there went away, and it would have increased because the Waynes loved it. They had a couple of big tellies and these game machines that they could put in. You didn't have to put any money in them. Kids could put in the tapes or the discs or whatever it was. That's exactly it. But you're absolutely right. Ideology closed them down. That's brilliant. Like put. It's exactly what happened. Now, if they had listened to me and taken these flags down, other women would have come because they would have been brought in by word of mouth. Well, pressure drop. I don't know. I think these lads are caught up in this modern ideology. They think that, I don't know what they think, but I can only imagine that they must think that it's somehow a sign of equality. We're not biased. We're not against anyone. I think that's the nonsense idea. And they don't seem to realise that they may not be against homosexuality, but most people don't like it. Most people don't want it near them. That's my experience of life, especially women with children or men with children. They don't want these homosexuals anywhere near their children. So they stop coming into the premises. And as my own son said, I agree with you, Steve. But my own son said it. They were trying to run this like a community cafe and somehow expect it to be like a business and make a profit. And you can't do both. You can't. It's either a community cafe and it needs to be supported in some other way, or it's a business. Oh, yeah, as Budgie says there, get woke, go broke. That's what I said to them. And so the venue was lost. It's still there, of course, but it's closed up. And it was ideal, big enough, central, right on the bus stops. Everything was perfect about it, except that one thing, and they wouldn't budge on it. What else could I do? They wouldn't listen to me. And so it no longer exists. Which means it doesn't exist for all the other people who were using it for the gaming. They lost out because they've nowhere to go now, again. I don't think they've got the wit, Steve, to realise what they were doing and what all this stood for. Yeah, well, there's nothing else I could do, Trevelyan. I gave them the only advice that you could give. You can't, the old saying about taking a horse to the trough, you can't make it drink. Again, you're all right in what you say. And it could have been a really good little going business there. Because these women would have told their pals it was a good place to go with the Waynes. You're all saying exactly the right thing because you are correct in what you say. It is such a shame. It could have been a valuable, and was it at the time, it was a valuable venue for the people of the town, especially the young people of the town, and for the party. Because the people in there were getting to know me, and therefore politics was gradually coming up in the conversations. So, what can I do? What else could I do except what I did? And I warned them that that would happen. I warned them it didn't matter what they thought about these flags or about these people. They were not the important thing. The important attitudes is the customer. And too many people who work directly with the public have never heard that old saying, the one that I get taught when I went into a shop to work at 15. And that is, the customer's always right, even, even when they're wrong. I don't think so, Treble M. I really don't think they will have learned. Really not. I think they're too brainwashed. It's like we all say, everyone's too brainwashed. The younger generations are too brainwashed. No, I think they were genuine pressure drop. I think they were. I don't think they were smart enough to try to use it. I think they were genuinely brainwashed people, young men. Steve, you stop saying things like that, Steve. I'll be worried again. Robert, oops, let me hold this. I said I was going. There was a similar one here, John, with similar ideals. All that remains are the posters in a window with a message: don't compete, collaborate, or eat it should be, I suppose, to rhyme. Don't starve, Steve. Well, there you go. You'll learn the hard way. And that's the problem. That's the sad, sad truth of the matter. They'll learn the hard way. So, anyway, I'll be back on Friday. I just wanted to bring you up to date with what I'm doing. in the background when I'm up to it. I'm no longer able just to, go out and try and do things. I've got to see how I am first. However, I am still working in the background as always. So once I get a venue, we can move on from there. What else? Yeah, and I'll get a price for this booklet. So, well, it's nice of you to say so, Treble M, and to notice. So, as always, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and goodbye for now. I'll see you on Friday. So enjoy the music, folks. And I'm sure Dominic will appreciate all your kind thoughts. And if you can manage a few prayers, that would be pretty good too. So take care, folks, and I'll speak to you all real soon.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides a fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more,
So much more
than we can know.
than we can possibly know.
We are one small glow,
But an important glow
in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past of consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
all together now.
But we're much more,
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow,
But a very important glow
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
So, folks, you take care, and we'll speak again soon. And if you get a bit of decent weather, get outside and get some fresh air. And take care. Bye just now.